Before this video begins, I would like to give a quick thank you to my Asban Team level patrons Fallon Cortez and Nathan Gibson. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Hello everyone and welcome back to the definitive Doctor Who Iceberg, the series of videos where I make my way down an incredibly detailed rabbit hole to uncover some of the weirdest and most niche elements of the Doctor Who franchise. In Tier 1 we looked at the more surface level elements like the Doctor, the TARDIS, regeneration and much more. You can go watch that if you want to catch up. Now there was a little bit of confusion regarding the placement of certain things since Tier 1 featured a couple of things not deemed common knowledge, but I'd like to again clarify that unlike most conventional icebergs, AphexCubed's intention for the Doctor Who iceberg focuses more on availability, accessibility and lore contribution, rather than purely basing things on how obscure each entry is. It is important to remember these things are also subjective, like the Cybermen being in this tier rather than the first tier, but as always I'll do my best to guide you through every entry with a short summary to explain it all. So beware spoilers for pretty much all Doctor Who, and I hope you're sitting comfortably like I have to, because it's time to dive into Tier 2 of the ultimate Doctor Who iceberg. Tier 2 begins with the Cybermen, who are one of Doctor Who's three most prominent recurring villains. They're a cyborg race with many different origin stories, and their main drive is to convert all life forms in the universe to be like them, cold, emotionless and brutal machines with almost no humanity left. The Cybermen were created for the 1966 story The 10th Planet, and they've made regular appearances ever since, going through a number of redesigns throughout the years as their stories warn of the reliance on technology and humanity seeking impossible machine perfection. The Cybermen are personally one of my favourite monsters. I just think they're pretty neat and scary. There's a lot of great body horror and psychological storytelling there. Dalek Mania refers to the incredible hype around the Daleks during the 1960s. The inventive monsters took the UK by storm, and there were all sorts of merchandise and even musical singles released to capitalise on the popularity of the Daleks amongst kids in the 60s. You know how big Pokemon was in the 90s, how it was literally everywhere and you couldn't escape it? Yeah, Dalek Mania was basically like that, but localised entirely to the UK in the 1960s. It was a big deal. Doctor Who Confidential was a weekly behind-the-scenes show accompanying the revived era of Doctor Who. It ran on BBC 3 for 6 series and featured an extensive look at the production of every episode of the show, with exclusive footage, interviews and other interesting segments. Episodes would air immediately after their subject matter and they'd be about 45 minutes long, and to this day I personally consider it one of the greatest bits of Doctor Who expanded media, especially because it started the domino effect leading me here today, reading Doctor Who Iceberg. Torchwood Declassified was essentially the same show but for the Torchwood spin-off, although these episodes were a lot shorter and the first series was apparently infamous for having a horrifically chaotic schedule, airing between 1 AM and 4 AM before they fixed that for series 2. Sarah Jane's Alien Files was also a kind of behind the scenes show but for the Sarah Jane Adventure spin-off, obviously. Rather than pulling the curtain back on the production, these webisodes were more like in-universe recaps of episodes with bits of lore sprinkled in, and they accompanied series 3 and 4 of the show, although they were never released on physical media like Confidential and Declassified were. However, if you have motion on a daily basis, they can be found online. Doctor Who Unleashed is the current behind the scenes show, essentially reviving the format of Confidential but for a modern audience, featuring a specific presenter instead of narrators. As of this recording, there have been 5 episodes so far, although that number will continue to increase as new ones are released alongside new episodes of the main show. As I mentioned in the first tier, Doctor Who had the classic era and the modern era. However, in between these two eras there was a TV movie released, the only canon Doctor Who story from this period, serving as a continuation of the classic Who era. The TV movie, or The Enemy Within as it's often referred to, was an attempt at breaking into America, being set in San Francisco and made as a backdoor pilot for a show on Fox, although it was never picked up due to its infamous production hell and disappointing reception in the States, although it did actually do pretty okay in the UK. For many years, this was the only on-screen story for Paul McGann's 8th Doctor, since he was replaced off-screen for New Who. A lot of people hate this movie, but I think there's actually a campy charm to it. It's not that bad, as controversial as that might be to say, but I will always defend any 8th Doctor media because I am a proud member of #McGann Gang. Blue Peter is a long-running BBC children's show that centres around a group of presenters travelling to interesting places, interviewing celebrities and teaching viewers arts and crafts, amongst many other things. It holds the distinction of being the longest-running children's TV show in the world, with over 5,200 episodes dating back to 1958. This show raised entire generations, and I'm not joking, it's a huge part of British culture, and everyone has their favourite presenters from when they were a kid. Connie, Simon, Matt, Liz and Zoe are the objective best presentation team. I don't make the rules, that's just how it is. Oh, and a big part of Blue Peter is also the opportunity to win badges for different achievements. I have one, but there are loads of others and the gold ones are the most prestigious. Anyway, the reason Blue Peter is on this list is because of its notable relationship with Doctor Who. Since they target a similar demographic, Blue Peter has extensively featured Doctor Who, from interviews with the cast and fan competitions to behind the scenes footage and even sharing cast members. Blue Peter will always be tightly associated with Doctor Who and a strong part of its marketing to young audiences. Hell, Blue Peter has even had cameos in the show itself. BBC Doctor Who is the Twitter account for Doctor Who. There's not much to say about it, it's just your run-of-the-mill corporate Twitter account used as marketing and a fandom tool. It doesn't have the Twitter game Big Finish does, so it ends up a bit more like a silence brand situation. Doctor Who TV is the official website for Doctor Who, and yes, that's .tv. They somehow never thought to get .com or .co.uk back when the internet was growing in popularity. This website is basically what you'd expect. There are articles, character bios and games, but it has mainly only been active since 2013. Since before then, Doctor Who just had a sub-website within the larger BBC domain. Doctor Who The Fan Show was basically Doctor Who's attempt to create a quirky, sanitised, fan-led YouTube channel with all the authenticity of a counterfeit £10 note drawn by a child. I wasn't really around for this era, so I have absolutely no connection to it, and I'm not afraid to be harsh to it. It was spread across both the main channel and its own YouTube channel, and it had a bunch of interviews and Q&As with the cast and crew of the show. Without getting into details, I personally really don't like it. Although at least it gave us an awkward video where Stuart Ashens of all people tries to hide his evident disdain for the maligned episode Sleep No More. It's a fascinating relic of mid-2010s branded YouTube content when the BBC was really trying to be hip and cool.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
Dalek is a Series 1 episode serving as the reintroduction of the iconic monsters in the modern era. It's widely regarded as one of the best episodes of that series and one of the best Dalek stories of all time for how it manages to make them scary again, along with including a lot of interesting themes and emotional storytelling. Midnight is an absolutely incredible Series 4 episode that completely turns the format of Doctor Who upside down. It's a bottle episode with no traditionally identifiable monster, and it serves as a brilliant psychological horror narrative written in an incredibly short span of time by Russell T Davies. It's my personal favourite episode of the entire show, and it's one of the most beloved stories to this day. Series 5's Vincent and the Doctor is often considered the best 11th Doctor story. It's an episode that explores the tragic mental illness of popular historical painter Vincent van Gogh, with a lot of powerful emotional scenes and an ending that gets posted online like almost daily as if it's some kind of hidden gem. Speaking of hidden gems, Heaven Sent is potentially the most popular and well-respected New Who episode within hardcore fan circles. It's the penultimate episode of Series 9, and much like Midnight, it completely changes the conventions and traditions of the show to deliver a very striking and memorable episode with a fantastic hook and a stellar performance by 12th Doctor Peter Capaldi. Its popularity has almost become a meme at this point, but it's in the eternal dance of Midnight for my favourite episode, and I even made an almost hour-long video essay review on it, so it's safe to say it's the 12th Doctor's most beloved episode. One of the most notable episodes of the 13th Doctor era is the Series 12 episode Fugitive of the Judoon, which sees the return of two popular entities from the first Russell T Davies era and some absolutely titanic revelations when it comes to reveals and lore contribution. I'm personally not a huge fan of it, I think it just relies on those shocks and twists, but it's obviously here for just how important it is in the 13th Doctor era. Russell T Davies is the current and original New Who showrunner and head writer. He oversaw Series 1 to 4 of the revival and created a number of beloved characters like the 9th and 10th Doctors, Rose Tyler, Martha Jones, Donna Noble, Captain Jack Harkness and many more, along with lots of aliens. Davies is often considered the best showrunner by a lot of fans due to his first era being the height of the show's popularity, and his era was also notable for its grounded family drama approach. He left Doctor Who in 2010, but has since returned to oversee the show again, starting with the 60th anniversary specials in 2023. Davies's original successor was Stephen Moffat, a very popular writer during Series 1 to 4, whose stories were often considered the best of that era. Moffat took over from Davies in 2010 and was showrunner until Series 10 in 2017. 13. The Moffat era is a bit more polarizing than the first Davis era, but on the whole it is well liked, with its own array of popular new characters and monsters. Moffat's showrunning style was a lot more experimental than Davis's, with the focus being more on mystery boxes and time travel paradoxes. This era had less of a casual audience appeal and faced a lot of criticism at the time, but in the years since it has been appreciated a lot more, and most hardcore fans even prefer it to the first Davis era, which is sometimes seen as too mainstream. Chris Chibnall was the third and most recent Doctor Who showrunner, taken over from Moffat and overseeing series 11 to 13. This era faced a lot of criticism for both fair and unfair reasons. Whilst he had contributed episodes to Doctor Who and Torchwood, Chibnall didn't have the same kind of prestige and track record of Moffat, along with some of his decisions as showrunner causing a lot of controversy within the fanbase. However, there were definitely some good elements within the era, and it does have a fair amount of fans. Bad Wolf was the Series 1 story arc, seeing the two words appearing as recurring phrases throughout the adventures of the Doctor and Rose. The words Bad Wolf appear in almost every episode of Series 1, sometimes as background Easter eggs and other times as explicit dialogue. The story arc culminated in the series finale, playing a major role in events, although it has since been referenced in a number of Doctor Who episodes and expanded media. Torchwood, not to be confused with the entry regarding the spin-off, was the Series 2 story arc, functioning in a similar way to Series 1's Bad Wolf. The word Torchwood first appeared in the Series 1 finale, but it would continue to be featured throughout Series 2 as an evil alien hunting organisation lurking in the background. This arc would come to fruition in the finale as Torchwood 1 was destroyed, although the wider Torchwood idea lives on as a notable part of the Doctor Who universe. You Are Not Alone, or Mr. Saxon, was the storyline of Series 3, seeing mentions of a mysterious political figure known as Mr. Saxon, and the Doctor learning he isn't the last of the Time Lords, with the two storylines being related and forming the foundation of the finale. Disappearing Planets refers to the Series 4 storyline of planets mysteriously disappearing from throughout time and space, a fate that even befalls Earth itself in the finale. This story arc was ultimately revealed to be a plan by the Daleks, although all the planets were returned by the end of the Series 4 finale. The Cracks in Time were a series of ominous cracks appearing throughout the events of Series 5, resembling a crack in the wall of companion Amy Pond's childhood bedroom. These cracks could erase people from time, and they were eventually revealed to be the product of the TARDIS exploding in the finale. However, the iconic cracks would continue to appear even after the story arc was over, becoming a memorable visual of the 11th Doctor era. Silence Will Fall was the Series 6 story arc, essentially serving as a sequel and clarification of the Cracks in Time. It explained them as the consequences of a plan by a time-travelling cult attempting to kill the Doctor and prevent him from uttering his name in the later episode Time of the Doctor. The Impossible Girl was the main storyline of Series 7, specifically the second half of the series. This arc dealt with the mystery surrounding new companion Clara Oswald and how she seemingly appeared in the previous episodes Asylum of the Daleks and the Snowmen. Day of the Doctor was the show's 50th anniversary special, and it dealt with the 10th and 11th Doctors returning to the Time War to end the conflict for good. It had all sorts of returning faces, and it's pretty good, a very strong episode celebrating the show. The Afterlife refers to Series 8 story arc, with many side characters dying in episodes and appearing in some kind of afterlife, only for this to be explained as Gallifreyan technology storing them as part of a wider villainous scheme. The Hybrid was the storyline of Series 9, a phrase much like Bad Wolf and Torchwood, with the premiere introducing the idea of a prophecy regarding a hybrid and episodes dealing with potential answers, only for the finale to reveal the hybrid was actually the dangerous combination of the 12th Doctor and Clara Oswald. To this day, people still kind of get it wrong and think it's something else, but it's very clear in the Series 9 finale that that's what the hybrid actually is. The Vault refers to the Series 10 story arc, in which the Doctor has a mysterious vault underneath the university he teaches at. The first half of the series dealt with the question of what or who was inside, whilst the second half saw the reveal and the implications of the vault's contents. The Timeless Child is the rather controversial storyline of Series 12 and parts of Series 13. It was seeded in the previous series before the Series 12 finale revealed the secret true origins of the Doctor as the titular Timeless Child. Doctor Who Flux was the subheading of the 6-part Series 13, and it refers to the apocalyptic storm that devastates the universe in that series. Flux elaborates on the Doctor's origin story and the secrets hidden from her, along with further explaining the Division, an organisation introduced in Series 12. I think this series is the high point of the Chibnall era, but it's by no means perfect. The 60th specials were a trilogy of episodes designed to mark Doctor Who's 60th anniversary. These stories centre around the return of David Tennant as the 14th Doctor and former companion Donna Noble, exploring the aftermath of Donna's original departure in Series 4 and also seeing the regeneration of the 14th Doctor into his successor. Every Doctor Who story features a musical score as a soundtrack. In the early years, this music was often just stock music, but both Classic Who and New Who saw specific composers working on the show to create specific tracks to accompany episodes. Most of these soundtracks have been released, except Series 10, which has about as much of a chance as coming out as me making a Torchwood Children of Earth review. Target novelizations are the long-standing, ongoing range of novelizations for episodes and stories. And for American audiences, no, it's not that target. There have been around 186 of these books released since 1973, although the first few releases were reprints of existing Doctor Who novelizations. To this day, almost every Classic Who story has had a target novelization, and select episodes of the modern show have been novelized by the company too. There have even been some novelization of unmade stories and audio productions within the range. There's a common conspiracy theory that the BBC needs to use Daleks each year of the modern era. Ahead of Series 1, the production team had difficulty securing the license for the Daleks, and ever since they have made an appearance in almost every series of the modern show, or specials and minisodes in the years where there aren't a series. This unrelenting recurrence of the villains has led people to believe that there's a contractual obligation for the Daleks to appear in at least some capacity every single year. However, despite these persistent rumours, showrunners like Davis and Moffat have gone on record to deny such a stipulation exists, and that the reason for the monsters appearing so commonly is just because of how iconic and popular they are. Also, as far as I'm aware, the Daleks had no appearance in the calendar year of 2018, and I don't think Resolution would count since it aired in 2019, so the theory is likely just that, a theory. The 3-series rule is the term for the tradition of most actors in the lead role leaving after 3 series, especially in the modern era. Second Doctor actor Patrick Troughton informed the production team early on in his tenure that he would do no more than 3 years in the role to avoid being typecast in future projects. He later advised 5th Doctor Peter Davison to do the same, and Sylvester McCoy's time on the show lasted 3 series just due to the cancellation of Doctor Who. In the modern era, every actor since David Tennant has left after 3 series, although some, like the 10th and 13th Doctors, have had specials extending their time on the show. This 3-series rule goes back to that fear of being typecast, so it has become the expected maximum tenure for any Doctor. The Infinite Quest was an animated project airing as part of the CBBC talk show Totally Doctor Who. This story, comprising 13 parts, saw then Doctor and companion Ten and Martha as they got involved in an intergalactic treasure hunt with space pirates and all sorts of wacky hijinks only available in animation. Dreamland was a similar project, attempting to create original Doctor Who stories in the animation medium, released in 6 parts on BBC Red Button, and later on the Series 4 special steelbook Blu-ray alongside the Infinite Quest. Dreamland basically sees the 10th Doctor go to Area 51 and fight bug aliens. It's really not that good, and it actually kind of looks pretty cursed. Night of the Doctor was a minisode released as part of the 50th anniversary celebrations in 2013. This short episode saw the triumphant return of Paul McGann's 8th Doctor in one of only 3 official appearances in official live-action media. It essentially served as a bridge between the TV movie and New Who, filling in the gap by finally showing the 8th Doctor's regeneration at the beginning of the Time War. It's an amazing thing to watch as a fan of the 8th Doctor. I highly recommend it if you haven't already seen it. And again, #McGannGang. The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith was the first crossover episode between Doctor Who and the Sarah Jane Adventures, seeing the 10th Doctor appearing in the spin-off and interacting with all the characters as he's forced to get involved in the chaotic events of Sarah Jane's wedding. It's a good story, and I've reviewed it before if you want to go more in depth. Similarly, Death of the Doctor was the second and final crossover between the 2 shows, this time featuring the 11th Doctor and Classic Who companion Jo Jones, aka Jo Grant. Death of the Doctor takes on a more sentimental and bittersweet approach due to the Doctor having regenerated, and it's full of great moments keeping the shows linked together. An Adventure in Space and Time was a TV docudrama made for the 50th anniversary. It retells the story of Doctor Who's creation in 1963 and the changes it went through before William Hartnell's departure 3 years later. It's an excellent dramatisation and a touching love letter to the little show that could, so I definitely recommend watching it if you want to understand just how difficult it was to even get the show off the ground. Children of Earth is the hugely popular Series 3 of Torchwood, telling one single story across 5 episodes released daily on BBC One. Almost everyone considers it the high point of the entire Torchwood spin-off, especially considering it was written by Russell T Davies himself, and it's arguably the darkest the Doctor Who TV universe has ever gotten, with some absolutely horrific subject matter. It's so popular in fact that people will never stop asking me to review it. Miracle Day, on the other hand, is the much derided and panned Series 4 of Torchwood. This series once again tells a single story, but across 10 episodes, and it's all very American, which obviously didn't go down very well with a primarily British audience. It has an ambitious story and some very great ideas, but many feel like the series was dragged out too long with lots of unnecessary padding and filler. The new series Adventures was a range of BBC books largely focusing on the modern era of the show. This range started in 2005 and features a bunch of great books with original adventures. The main range consists of 63 novels, but there were also specials, audiobooks, anthologies, and 4 books focusing on past Doctors. The new series Adventures range last had a release in 2022, so it's entirely possible it has been quietly dropped since the special release origin stories, although we'll have to wait and see on that. Doctor Who Adventures was a magazine mainly aimed at children, being released between 2006 and 2017, with a one-off special in 2019. Unlike the main Doctor Who magazine, this was a lot lighter, focusing more on activities and free gifts, rather than the more mature and factual Doctor Who magazine, although it was cancelled due to lower interest and lack of profits. BBC Audiobooks is a range of unabridged audiobook versions of the target novelizations. Although in recent years they've featured more original novelizations of past stories, this range started in 2005 and continues to this day, with new releases coming every year. Davros is one of the most significant villains in Doctor Who because he is the in-universe creator of the Daleks. He was introduced as the monster's creator in the 1975 story Genesis of the Daleks, and he has been a regular fixture of the show ever since. Davros is a maniacal scientist from Skaro who created the Daleks to end a war, only for them to outgrow him, leading to a number of power struggles. Davros has been portrayed by multiple different actors across the classic and New Who eras, and he's one of those villains who always seems to escape death and just shows up again like nothing ever happened. The Sontarans are an alien warrior race making regular appearances in Doctor Who since their introduction in 1973. These baked potato looking clones are one of the fiercest alien species in the fiction of the show, and they're known for their tactical stubbornness and gleeful embrace of warfare, along with looking like potatoes. Introduced in Series 1, the Slovene are a criminal family of Raxacorico-Phalapatorian aliens. They're known for their ability to kill people and wear their skin as disguises to infiltrate society, although this has the comical side effect of gassiness, leading to their infamy as farting aliens. They've only properly appeared in 3 full episodes of the show, although they were a staple of the Sarah Jane adventures, and they remain one of the most well-known modern monsters, for better or for worse. The Ood are a slave race, first seen in Series 2. These tentacle-faced aliens are a peaceful, psychic species who were abused by humanity and forced to become subservient creatures for many years until they were freed by the Doctor. The Ood are another iconic original New Who monster, and they continue to make cameo appearances to this day. The Weeping Angels are by far the most iconic and culturally relevant modern Doctor Who monster. Created by Stephen Moffat for Series 3, these statue-like aliens are known for their ability to only move when they're not being observed, killing you by sending you back in time to live out your life as they feast on your lost future. Or sometimes they just snap your neck. The Weeping Angels are a horror icon for a very good reason, and they're one of the few things from Doctor Who that's actually escaped the orbit of the show and become a global cultural icon. The Silents are a sinister and intimidating race of aliens originally used for religious confessions because of their ability to erase themselves from the minds of any entity the moment they look away. Despite sharing this need to be observed with the Weeping Angels, the Silents are very different as antagonists, and they have only appeared in Series 6 and 7 of the show. Although their gimmick remains a meme within the fanbase, people, like pretending to forget about anything referencing the Silents and being like, sorry, what were you talking about? Along with the Daleks and the Cybermen, the Master is part of the so-called Big Three of prominent Doctor Who villains. The Master is the Doctor's rival Time Lord, a friend turned foe who serves as the Doctor's intellectual equal. The Master has been a regular fixture of both the classic and modern eras of the show and has a number of different incarnations, including Missy, the first on-screen female incarnation of the character. Much like Davros, the Master has a habit of constantly dying and then magically returning later on. They're often a surprise twist villain, like you have some random guy called M. Astor with Groucho Marx glasses, and for a cliffhanger it will be revealed that he's the Master, and the Doctor will be all like, oh no, what? How? I never saw that coming. It's great stuff. Susan, or Susan Foreman, was a companion of the First Doctor, specifically the first companion to ever appear in the show. Susan is the Doctor's granddaughter, meaning she is implied to be a fellow Time Lord, although she left the show before any of the Time Lord lore or stuff was introduced, leaving it to expanded media to handle. Susan left the show in Season 2, although she did make a one-off appearance in 1983's 20th anniversary special. Despite constant fan speculation and requests, Susan has yet to appear in the modern era of the show. Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, or as he's better known, the Brigadier, was a recurring Doctor Who side character appearing throughout Classic Who. The Brigadier was introduced in Season 5 and soon became a high-ranking member of UNIT, an alien fighting task force within the show. Some consider the Brigadier as a full companion and some don't, considering his unique role in the show, but it's undeniable that he was an important element of Classic Who. He did make an appearance in the Sarah Jane Adventures, but unfortunately actor Nicholas Courtney passed away before he could make any further appearances in the modern Doctor Who universe. Sarah Jane Smith was a companion of the 3rd and 4th Doctor. She was introduced as a feminist journalist, and her subsequent partnership with the 4th Doctor became possibly the most popular and iconic pairings of the entire Classic Who era. Sarah Jane also returned for the 1983 special, and even in the modern show too, where she had multiple appearances alongside the 10th Doctor, along with having her own dedicated spin-off. To this day, Sarah Jane remains one of the most popular and beloved companions from the whole show. K9 was the Doctor's robotic dog companion introduced in Season 15's The Invisible Enemy. This robot dog was essentially an all-purpose tool able to interface with technology and do whatever stories required of him. After K9 Mark 1 was initially written out in Season 15's Invasion of Time, there were a few different K9s within the show and expanded media. K9 remains a fan favourite character, but funnily enough, the Classic Who production team absolutely hated him because he was such a difficult prop to work with. Like, seriously, this thing apparently never worked right. But you know what they say? Never work with kids or animals. Harriet Jones was a notable side character in the first Russell T Davies era of Doctor Who. She was a politician who helped the Doctor defeat the Slitheen, becoming Prime Minister and ultimately becoming an enemy of the Doctor, although she later helped him on in the series 4 finale. Harriet Jones is best known for her need to introduce herself to everyone she meets, even though they usually already know who she is. Jenny was a character introduced in series 4 as the genetic clone daughter of the 10th Doctor, created to fight a war on an alien planet. She only appeared in the single episode The Doctor's Daughter, but she has since made a number of expanded media appearances, and it's basically the Doctor Who version of Viggo Mortensen breaking his toe kicking a helmet, but Jenny's actor Georgia Tennant is the daughter of 5th Doctor Peter Davison and the wife of 10th Doctor David Tennant. Just had to say it before the comments would. River Song is an iconic Doctor Who character who made her first appearance in series 4 as a mysterious figure from the Doctor's future. Before subsequent episodes revealed she was the Doctor's time-travelling wife and an assassin trained to kill him before she fell in love with him instead. River is a very popular character and appeared at least once every year from 2010 to 2016. Although interestingly, every episode she was in was written by a creator Stephen Moffat. No one else ever wrote a TV episode with her. River has had a huge amount of expanded media appearances, and she stands out as one of the most notable unconventional companions. Petronella Osgood is a side character who works as scientific advisor for UNIT. She's known for being essentially an in-universe superfan of the Doctor, and she's become a regular character in the modern show. The Paternoster Gang is a detective and alien fighting trio living in Victorian England. It's made up of the Silurian Vastra, the Sontaran Strax, and the human Jenny. No, not that Jenny, but different Jenny. The Paternoster Gang were brought together by the Doctor, and they made a few different appearances in the show, with some fans even calling for them to have their own spin-off. However, at this point, such a spin-off has only ever existed in an audio format. Kate Stewart is the daughter of the Brigadier, taken over from him as a notable member of UNIT and a regular ally of the Doctor. Interestingly, Kate was actually created in the 90s for a licensed yet non-BBC produced spin-off. It's confusing and we'll get to that stuff later on. Kate made her first proper TV appearance in 2012's The Power of Three, and she has been a staple of the show ever since, having adventures with every modern Doctor except the 9th. Much like the Brigadier, Kate's status as companion is up for debate, but she's definitely important to the show regardless. The Fam is the term the 13th Doctor used to describe herself and her companions as a collective, starting off as a joke in her first episode and gradually becoming a reality throughout Series 11. The 4th Doctor is the longest running incarnation of the Doctor, with his tenure starting in 1974 and ending in 1981. Of course, some people might claim that the 7th and 8th Doctors lasted longer, but I think it's fair to say that they shouldn't count because the show was inactive during those periods. More on that stuff in later tiers. The War Doctor was a secret, non-numbered incarnation of the Doctor introduced in 2013 for Day of the Doctor. It was revealed that when the 8th Doctor regenerated, he became a warrior incarnation to fight in the Time War, before the War Doctor then regenerated into the 9th Doctor at the end of the conflict, and subsequent incarnations essentially repressed their memories of being the War Doctor and refused to count him as a proper incarnation because he didn't live up to the title of the Doctor. The Fugitive Doctor was another secret incarnation, this time predating the first Doctor because of the Timeless Child storyline, which suggested the Doctor had many lifetimes before becoming the first Doctor. The Fugitive Doctor worked for a clandestine Time Lord organisation known as the Division, and this past was erased from the Doctor's mind until Fugitive of the Jadoon. The Curator is a mysterious figure introduced in Day of the Doctor, with heavy implications that he is a future incarnation of the Doctor who has returned to familiar faces of past incarnations and settled down. To date, the curator has only appeared in that one episode, but he has made further appearances in expanded media as a side character. BBC Sounds is the BBC's official radio and podcast platform. It's notable for hosting Doctor Who productions like Missing Episode Audio, official podcasts, and select Big Finish audio dramas. Doctor Who at the Proms refers to Doctor Who's presence at the BBC Proms, a showcase of live classical music. To date, there have been 3 editions of Doctor Who at the Proms released, featuring music from the show along with skits and appearances of Doctor Who monsters as part of the performance. Doctor Who at 60, a musical celebration, was a concert marking the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. The concert took place in Cardiff and saw a number of pieces of music from the show performed, including the world premiere of the 2023 Doctor Who theme, along with themes of the 15th Doctor and Ruby Sunday. The Monsters Are Coming was a 2010 Doctor Who stage show that toured the UK. It was essentially a musical of a live orchestra, seeing a travelling showman conjuring up the Doctor's friends and enemies, along with the 11th Doctor appearing in the form of pre-taped video clips. I never knew this was a thing, and as far as I'm aware, there's no official full release of the production or its soundtrack, although pretty much all the music was just existing tracks from the show. There are some clips and stitched together videos on YouTube though, so you can see most of the performance if you look in the right places. The Doctor Who Experience was an ambitious Doctor Who exhibition initially hosted in London from 2011 to 2012, but then in Cardiff Bay from 2012 to 2017. This exhibition was an absolutely incredible thing for fans to visit, with a museum element allowing you to see loads of props and costumes from the show, along with TARDIS console rooms. Like, this thing was genuinely huge, and it was all dedicated entirely to Doctor Who. There was also an interactive element, almost like a theme park, where visitors would be part of a story, being guided through rooms by a staff member and getting involved in set pieces. The Doctor Who Experience was absolutely brilliant, and I'm glad I got to go while it was still active. Doctor Who Worlds of Wonder is an ongoing Doctor Who exhibition that is essentially a successor to the Experience, even using the same design and production team. However, Worlds of Wonder is different for 2 very notable reasons. First of all, it's more science-based and educational, using the show as a backdrop for a more natural history museum style approach. Secondly, it's a touring exhibition. It started in Liverpool before going to Scotland, and its next destination is New Zealand. Because of course, that's the most logical third location for it to go. But jokes aside, at least the Kiwis and Australians will actually get something, because they probably feel very neglected by this point. Gallifreyan writing refers to the written language of the Time Lords. This has taken a few different variations over the years, with the first, High Gallifreyan, being a mix of Greek letters and mathematical symbols, the second, Modern Gallifreyan, being whatever this is, before the third and current Circular Gallifreyan being a symbol-based language using interlocking circles, hexagons and lines. As of this recording, there are no official full alphabets for any of these languages, but there have been some fan-made ones, notably the version created by fan Lauren Sherman, which has since been used in official merch and elements of production. Although I do like the idea of them introducing an official alphabet later on, so all these people with Gallifreyan tattoos end up with nonsense rather than profound quotes. It'd be like, when someone gets like an edgy Japanese tattoo they think says warrior, only for it to actually be car park. Cold opens is a term referring to the pre-title sequences in Doctor Who episodes, mainly those in the modern era. These usually establish things like locations, side characters or monsters before the Doctor arrives on the scene, giving viewers a taste of the action to come. The Sanctuary-based 6 spacesuit is an iconic costume in Doctor Who, being introduced in Series 2 and making repeated appearances ever since, with the 10th to 13th Doctors all wearing either this suit or a slightly different yet very similar design for adventures. Ginger refers to the modern incarnations of the Doctor desperately wanting to have ginger hair. This is a running joke that started in 2005's The Christmas Invasion, and it has been referenced multiple times ever since. To this date, there has never been a ginger Doctor, although some people might argue that the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker, was ginger, although that's a whole can of worms I don't want to open. Fish custard is a term arising from the 11th Doctor's first episode, where he eats fish fingers dipped in custard. This immediately caused a bunch of kids to want to try it, and I should know because I was one. It tasted horrible, by the way. The fish custard meal became a recurring thing in the 11th Doctor's era, ending up an iconic part of the Moffat era of Doctor Who. All of Series 1 on Earth refers to the unique distinction Series 1 has of only taking place on Earth or in its orbit. I believe this makes it the only series in the entire show to never leave the solar system, which is pretty crazy to think about. The last great Time War timeline confusion mainly refers to new fans starting Series 1 and assuming the Time War took place within or before Classic Who, despite it happening between Classic Who and Series 1. When I was a kid, I was one of these people. I assumed it was an existing thing and not something created for the revived era. So it's a common enough misconception that it ends up on this iceberg. Companion girl from contemporary Earth/London is a recurring theme within Doctor Who, with almost every companion being such a character. It's especially prevalent in the modern era, leading to a lot of fans desperate for characters who break that archetype, citing specific characters from Classic Who as examples. The Science of Doctor Who was a special documentary in 2013, seeing Professor Brian Cox delivering a Doctor Who themed lecture exploring the titular concept, complete with mini-sodes throughout that paired the 11th Doctor with Brian Cox and bookended the concepts discussed in the lecture. The Bargain Hunt special was a 2023 episode of the BBC show Bargain Hunt that had a Doctor Who theme, using Doctor Who fans as contestants and featuring a look at some historic Doctor Who memorabilia. Talking Doctor Who was a documentary on BBC 4 exploring the history of Doctor Who as presented and narrated by David Tennant, with a lot of behind the scenes footage and discussion. Much like the Bargain Hunt special, it was released in 2023 as part of the 60th anniversary celebrations. Doctor Who The Bedtime Story was a Doctor Who themed episode of CBeebies Bedtime Stories, a popular series since 2006 where notable figures read bedtime stories for the young viewers. The Doctor Who edition was part of the 60th anniversary celebrations and saw David Tennant reading a story in character as the 14th Doctor. Humans Are Helpless refers to the amount of times the Doctor has interfered in human history, to the extent that there's a case to be made that humanity outright needs the protagonist just to survive. Super Wholock was the quirky name of the unity of 3 fanbases on Tumblr in the early 2010s. Those were, obviously, Supernatural, Doctor Who and Sherlock. Luckily, this isn't a thing anymore. They were very dark days, and thankfully it predated stan culture. Dr. Puppet was a fan account run by Elisa Stern, who initially posted photos of an adventuring 11th Doctor puppet on Tumblr in 2012, before eventually making a series of stop motion shorts on YouTube that continued for 8 episodes and yearly Christmas specials until the series ended in 2018. They're really high quality productions and something I genuinely had no idea existed, so definitely go check them out. The Hillywood Show is a YouTube channel run by 2 sisters who make musical parodies of popular TV shows and movies. In 2014 they made a Doctor Who parody, which currently sits at over 9 million views and is based on the Rocky Horror song The Time Warp. It's definitely a product of its time, and it won't at all surprise you to find out it's almost exclusively about the 10th Doctor era. It's basically the kind of stuff that wakes me up in cold sweats at night, and this video is unfortunately the only reason I ever found out it existed, so give me a subscription at least to make that pain worth it. At least as the incredible talent of Elliot Crosley's impression of the 10th Doctor, he's scary accurate. The Fall of Doctor Who is the astoundingly long and detailed 5-hour-long Chibnall era critique made by video essay channel JXE. Due to Jay's already well-established over 500,000 subscriber channel and widespread discontent within the fanbase at the time of release, this juggernaut of a video exploded in popularity and currently sits at 3.8 million views, making it a hugely relevant part of the Doctor Who fanbase in the internet era. Peter Capaldi wishes Happy Easter from the Doctor is a very short clip from Doctor Who's social media where the 12th Doctor wishes fans a Happy Easter but warns them to not trust the Easter Bunny. It's such a weird oddity, but the man speaks facts. Just look at him, he's telling the truth. Type 40 refers to the type of TARDIS that belonged to the Doctor, specifically a Mark III Type 40. There are many other types, many more advanced, with the Type 40 essentially considered a museum piece. The TARDIS key rather obviously refers to the key to the TARDIS, which usually took the form of a regular door key, although there was also a spade key design too. Usually companions get their own key to allow them to come and go as they please, and it does have some sort of magical properties in some occasions. Whilst the TARDIS always takes the form of a police box, the TARDIS exterior has had subtle changes over the course of the show. Every now and then the prop will be replaced or modified, leading to multiple distinct versions of the same exterior. The chameleon circuit is a component of the TARDIS, allowing it to change its exterior to fit in with its surroundings so it would be unnoticed. Of course, the Doctor's TARDIS is known for its chameleon circuit being broken, hence always being a police box, although the circuit has been used a couple of times in the show. A perception filter is a telepathic effect misdirecting the senses of someone so they can't see the person or item using it. It can trick the memory, and to quote Martha Jones, you know it's there, but you don't want to know it's there. This effect has been used by both the Doctor and their enemies, making regular appearances in the show. Control rooms refers to the TARDIS having multiple different control room interiors over the course of the show. These can range from small rooms that resemble studies to huge cavernous rooms. it all basically depends on the budget or creative vision at the time. The TARDIS translation circuit is a component of the TARDIS that allows the main characters to instantly understand and speak most languages in the universe. It's basically the show's way of explaining why everyone in all of time and space can speak perfect English. The round things refers to a visual aspect of the TARDIS taking the form of, well, round things on the wall that have no clear purpose, something the show has itself acknowledged. They're just there to look pretty cool. You've redecorated is a term used multiple times in the show to refer to existing characters reacting to the in-universe changes made to the interior of the TARDIS, for better or for worse. TARDIS needs 6 pilots refers to the time machine being designed with 6 pilots in mind, something shown in the episode Journey's End, where the TARDIS is able to achieve its full potential rather than only being piloted by 1 or 2 people like the rest of the show. The TARDIS wardrobe is a long established room within the infinite space of the TARDIS. It quite literally is just a wardrobe, allowing characters to change their clothes and for the Doctor to change their outfit, although it has had different designs throughout the show ranging in size. The Sonic sunglasses were a variation of the Sonic screwdriver introduced in Series 9, with a device taking on the form of a pair of Ray-Ban sunglasses rather than the wand type design that had been tradition before. However, after the 12th Doctor's regeneration, the sunglasses were replaced with a new wand type screwdriver. The laser screwdriver was the Saxon Master's personal equivalent to the Sonic screwdriver introduced in Series 3. Unlike the Sonic, this device was capable of outright killing people and causing great pain since, you know, it was a laser screwdriver. Sonic lipstick was a tool used by Sarah Jane Smith in her spin-off show, essentially serving the same purpose as the Sonic screwdriver, but in more of a James Bond gadget way. The Sonic blaster was a type of weapon used by both Captain Jack Harkness and River Song, allowing the user to create holes in doors and walls, along with being able to then reconstruct the hole afterwards. Doctor Who the Encyclopedia is a 2007 reference book which had an alphabetical list of everything from Series 1 to 3 of Doctor Who, along with a bunch of information about the classic show too. There was an updated 2011 version, but both of these books just kind of recap episodes from the show rather than adding or clarifying real actual new lore. Magic the Gathering Doctor Who refers to the 2023 crossover between Doctor Who and the card game Magic the Gathering. 4 Commander decks were released alongside collector boosters and secret lair cards, all with unique Doctor Who themed art and abilities. They're great and I have all 4 decks, just don't ask me how much it cost me or how you're supposed to actually play the game. Doctor Who Monster Invasion was a trading card game released alongside a magazine of the same name. There are a total of 345 cards and the infinite cards were the rarest, with a pull rate of just 1 in 1000 packs. VR games refers to a number of Doctor Who VR games, ranging from short visual experiences like The Runaway to fully fledged releases such as The Edge of Time. The Lonely Assassins is a Doctor Who game primarily for mobile, which sees you solving a mystery regarding the Weeping Angels through the lens of exploring a phone. Lost in Time is a Doctor Who mobile game released in the last couple of years, and the term game is being a bit generous since it's just kind of a pay-to-win idle game where you spend most of the time watching ads. The Adventure games were a series of episodic puzzle games released in 2010 and 2011. These games were free to download and fully voice acted by the show's cast, and to this day they're considered some of the best Doctor Who games ever made. Unfortunately, they're not available on Steam or any other outlet. You kind of have to, sail the high seas. Evacuation Earth was a Nintendo DS puzzle game that came out in 2010. It's a very basic DS game and it wasn't very well received, much like its sister game for the Wii, Return to Earth, which was critically derided, and also the Eternity Clock was also a complete failure. Doctor Who Minecraft refers to an episode of The Fan Show, a CGI Minecraft animation providing information about the Doctor Who Minecraft rollercoaster project. Doctor Who also had some official skins released for Minecraft in 2014, making it one of the few crossovers between Doctor Who and established games. The Witcher 3 Weeping Angels are an Easter egg in the hugely popular game The Witcher 3. As the name implies, these are stone statues in a graveyard resembling angels and moving when unobserved, although thankfully that's all they do. The Assassin's Creed Stone Box is a Doctor Who Easter egg in the game Assassin's Creed Origins, where you can come across a submerged stone TARDIS hidden within the open world. Fallout Unusual Call Box refers to a Doctor Who themed special encounter in the game Fallout released in 1997. This encounter sees your character come across the TARDIS, only for it to dematerialize when you get close to it. Staying in the Fallout universe, Fallout New Vegas is a very well known and detailed mod for the game Fallout New Vegas. This mod allows you to pilot your own TARDIS and use weapons from the show. It also features a regeneration and companion recruitment mechanic, along with giving you the ability to travel to familiar planets like Karn and Skaro. The mod was so successful and popular that there is even a spiritual successor for Fallout 4, although this isn't nearly as extensive as the original. Borderlands 2 is a popular first-person shooter game released in 2012 featuring a subtle Easter egg in the form of a roll call for dead construction workers. all with names matching the actors of the first 4 Doctors of Classic Who, despite Tom Baker still being alive at the time. EVE Online crossover refers to the limited time crossover event known as the Interstellar Convergence, where players of the MMORPG EVE Online could unlock exclusive Doctor Who themed rewards and fight the Daleks. But yeah, it's EVE Online, a game with a reputation as bad as peak World of Warcraft when it comes to being too involved and dedicated. Also, this event was apparently super controversial and made a bunch of EVE fans complain online because it didn't fit the game or something along those lines. Jelly babies are a type of jelly sweet very popular in the UK since their creation in 1918. Their relationship with Doctor Who started during the 2nd Doctor era, but most notably during the 4th Doctor era, where the Doctor would regularly ask people around him if they wanted a jelly baby. Who Culture is a YouTube channel belonging to the What Culture website and magazine, which is owned by the Future Publishing Corporation. Who Culture was set up in 2020, and thanks to their corporate branded backing and clickbait top 10 style videos, they have reached 180,000 subscribers since. If you hadn't already guessed, I'm not a fan, so we'll quickly move on. Who Lock Doctor Meets Sherlock refers to a viral YouTube video from 2013, where the creator cleverly combines footage of Doctor Who and the show Sherlock, making it seem like the 2 lead characters were interacting. This video, and the similar ones around it, were so popular in fact that the creator John Smith would even go on to work on VFX for the show itself between 2017 and 2022. The Torchwood anagram refers to a practice by the Doctor Who production team during the filming of Series 1 to protect the first few episodes from being intercepted or leaked. Torchwood is, of course, an anagram of Doctor Who, but Russell T Davies liked it so much he used it within the show itself and for the spin-off. The 4th Doctor's scarf was famously knitted by mistake, at least according to fan legend. Apparently, costume designer James Akerson gave knitter Begonia Pope a load of multicolour wool and asked her to create a scarf for the 4th Doctor, only for her to use all of the wool by accident, leading to the now iconic 12-foot long scarf. Doctor Who in The Simpsons is an entry referring to the many references the popular sitcom has made to Doctor Who, since creator Matt Groening claims to be a fan of the show. Elements and characters have appeared as Easter eggs within The Simpsons, and it actually goes the other way too, with Doctor Who making a number of Simpsons references itself. Much like The Simpsons, Doctor Who has also been referenced and featured in Family Guy, although to a lesser extent. And lastly for this tier, Whoniverse on iPlayer refers to the extensive section on BBC iPlayer dedicated entirely to Doctor Who. This has all the main series content, the spin-offs and documentary content I've already mentioned in this tier. It basically features all the Doctor Who content available on iPlayer and it's really handy. And finally, we're at the end of tier 2 of the Ultimate Doctor Who Iceberg. This was a really long one, and hopefully it covered a lot of the stuff you might have expected to see in tier 1. It was a really long video to make, clocking in at nearly 10,000 words, so I hope I was able to add enough detail to explain every entry in a helpful way. During production of this video, TARDIS Wiki did migrate away from the fandom host and to an independent site, so please try and go there for further research rather than the original fandom website. Hopefully you enjoyed this deep dive into tier 2 of the Iceberg, so if you did, please consider liking and subscribing to support this series and the channel. As always, big thank you to AphexCubed for creating this iceberg, and you can explore it yourself at the link in the description and pinned comment. I will warn you that this tier was officially the tip of the iceberg. Tier 1 was just the clear skies, this was the actual tip. Things will slowly start to get a lot more obscure and weird as we get even deeper, so prepare yourselves and thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. And I'd just like to quickly thank my Bantam level patrons, Fallon Cortez and Nathan Gibson, my Diamond level patron, Glenna Clark, my Platinum level patrons, Matthew Burns and Maximilian Foreman, and all my Gold level patrons, Daniel Shillito, Franz Orn aka Alarm Vortex, Leigh Marie Farrell, and Tom Azar. Thank you so much for your support.